A new attack on a vessel alleged to be transporting drugs in the Eastern Pacific Ocean was claimed to have been carried out by the United States. Brazilian President Luis Inácio Lula da Silva met with his Indonesian counterpart, Prabowo Subianto, in Jakarta to strengthen trade relations between the two countries. The World Health Organization reported that the death toll in the Gaza Strip has reached 89 since the ceasefire was declared on October 11th. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Sophie Fernanda from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. The United States claimed responsibility for a new attack on a vessel that was allegedly transporting drugs in the Eastern Pacific Ocean. This attack is the eighth of its kind perpetrated by Washington forces in international waters, and the first to take place in the Pacific. On this occasion, the Department of Defense claimed to have killed two alleged terrorists, providing as the only evidence a video showing an empty boat just before it was hit by a projectile. On the other hand, this new aggression contradicts U.S. assertions about international drug trafficking routes, given that the White House had previously identified the Caribbean as the main drug route to North America, a statement that opposes multiple reports from international organizations. The fugitive from Venezuelan justice, Leopoldo López, supported publicly a military intervention by the United States in Venezuela as the only way to bring about regime change in the Bolivarian nation. During an interview granted to the F agency, López said that the current actions in the Caribbean must be extended to the Venezuelan territory and suggested the possibility of an internal uprising. The remarks revive a violent narrative that has served as justification for U.S. sanctions that have affected the Venezuelan people's access to food, medicines, and essential goods over the last decade. The statements coincide with Washington's growing hostility against Caracas, with the justification of a supposed fight against drug trafficking in the region, an argument used in the past to justify military operations. Meanwhile, in Venezuela, President Nicolás Maduro thanked Colombia for its support in addressing imperialist aggressions against the country and the region. The president emphasized that while the U.S. military threat looms over the Caribbean, the country is well prepared to defend its territorial integrity, freedom, and peace. He also highlighted the support that Venezuela has from all its brother countries, especially Colombia, which has neutralized the violent acts that have been attempted against Venezuela. President Maduro also insisted that imperialist and psychological warfare threats have been successfully countered with serenity and tranquility.
3 de mayo 2020.
On May 3, 2020, a group of mercenaries, Venezuelan mercenaries, and some U.S. mercenaries left from Colombia, supported by W.H.O. Now the whole truth has come out because the organizer, John Woodrock, has confessed everything they did, who financed it, who prepared it, who led it, how did he order it, where did they train them, and he has said everything about, even W.H.O., then President of Colombia. We also said it because we knew everything even W.H.O. was doing, thanks to the fact that there are many patriots in the military forces and in the intelligence forces of Colombia. And from here I thank you for all the support you have given us for many years, to all those who have supported the military and intelligence forces of Colombia, who have their hearts in Bolivar, and love us as the common homeland of Bolivar.
The Venezuelan president also addressed the need to create a powerful international commission of the world's working class to defend the rights of peace and sovereignty in the face of imperialist threats.
Entonces, compañeros y compañeras de cantos y labores, vamos nosotros a conformar una poderosa comisión.
So, comrades, let us form a powerful international commission. Right now, later at 6 o'clock, I want to know the names of that international commission, and that we appoint a comrade to get the skates on, because we need to activate a Congress of the Latin American, Caribbean Working Class Congress with guests from all over the world, very soon to coordinate actions with the working class of our America and the world. Reactivate because I have seen very good communications from workers' unions in all countries. Now we must take initiative. Isn't it true that the working class that wants to support us in all countries, including the United States, is formulating a strategy for peace? And if Venezuela were to be attacked, or Colombia, which is now under threat, were to be attacked, the working class of the world would react and activate all its mechanisms to defend our rights to peace and sovereignty.
La clase obrera del mundo reaccionara y activara todos sus mecanismos para defender nuestro derecho a la paz y a la soberanía.
Also in Venezuela, the Bolivarian National Armed Forces conducts Independence 200 coastal defense exercises as part of the 27 territorial actions to protect national sovereignty. The regions of La Guaira and Miranda were activated with the aim of achieving the optimal level of preparation for the state in the face of the threats from the United States and in the civil-military police merger to protect the constitutional rights of Venezuelans. For their part, troops located in Puerto Francés in the state of Miranda began the deployment of the Integral Defense Operational Zones. In turn, in the state of Anzoátegui, the commander of the operational zone activated the Independence 200 coastal defense exercises on all coastal fronts of the entity.
We are carrying out route operations, land route optimizations, air surveillance, exploration, and radio-electric operations, as well as drone patrolling, amphibious operations in some parts of the Venezuelan coast, and saturation patrols, and preventive measures in some parts of the country's coastal areas.
Meanwhile, Venezuelan Minister of Defense Vladimir Perino Lopez also emphasized that these operations are part of the defense of the nation in every territory against any type of threat, and that these operations guarantee the constitutional rights of the Venezuelan people.
So it is not only drug trafficking that is the threat, it is a global threat, but U.S. imperialism wants to impose drug trafficking on the entire world as a global threat, and it turns out that each region, every civilization, every part of the world has its own threats. So we are dedicated to combating drug trafficking, certainly, and effectively as we have demonstrated, but we are also dedicated to preserving peace from every angle, from every perspective, to guarantee, I repeat, the constitutional rights of the people of Venezuela.
And now we have a short break coming up. But first, remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. Brazilian President Luis Inácio Lula da Silva met with his Indonesian counterpart Prabowo Subianto in Jakarta on Thursday, with the aim of advancing trade relations between the two countries. The Brazilian president, who arrived in Indonesia on Wednesday at the start of the tour of Southeast Asia, would also include a visit to Malaysia, was received with honors at the presidential palace, accompanied by a large delegation of Brazilian ministers. President Lula is scheduled to participate in a forum of business leaders from both countries, while on Friday he will visit the headquarters of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, ASEAN, to meet with the bloc's Secretary General Kao Kim Hoorn before leaving for Malaysia. In Honduras, different social sectors denounced the incitement to hatred by members of the Liberal Party together with Salvador Nasrallah after burning a flag on the government party, Freedom and Refundation. The act was described as apologetic to hatred, violence and despair, and demand authorities take action against the responsible. Former President Manuel Zelaya rejected the coup-like and oligarchy actions of Deputy Nasser al-Salum in his hatred of what he described as the historical resistance of democracy in the region. Members of the Freedom and Refundation Party emphasized that they will remain firm in their democratic and pacifist vocation, bringing the message of love, hope and refundation to every corner of the country. During the event, presidential candidates shared the ideas and proposals in an open and direct manner ahead of the general elections on November 30, 2025, throughout a debate. During her participation, presidential candidate Rixi Moncada assured that the country is no longer a narco state and reaffirmed that she will continue with the refunding. The objective of this debate was for citizens to learn firsthand about the candidates' proposals and solutions, together with analysis that seek to continue improving the country's political, economical, and commercial outlook. We move on to Guatemala, where social movements, farmers, and spiritual leaders expressed their support for international jurist and lawyer Ramón Cadenas after he was persecuted for supporting university protests. The protesters expressed their rejection of the criminalization of attorney Cadenas after he spoke out against electoral fraud in the elections for rector of the University of San Carlos de Guatemala and supported the university struggles of the students. They also supported all political prisoners and condemned delays in the trial of human rights defenders. Lawyer Ramón Cadenas is accused of crimes including aggravated usurpation, continuous damage to cultural property, sedition, and illegal association. In the United States, more than 500,000 federal workers will not receive their salaries following the provisional suspension of the administration's operation, which has now lasted 23 days. The prolonged government shutdown is already affecting military personnel, foster families, and other categories of citizens, so the Senate was urged to release funds immediately and to put an end to the suffering of U.S. people. It should be noted that the provisional suspension of the functioning of the U.S. administration began on October 1st, after a bipartisan agreement to approve a project of law financing failed, which has caused interruptions in key services and economic losses. In this regard, President Donald Trump declared that he could use the shutdown to implement significant cuts to personnel and salaries. Meanwhile, also in the United States, thousands of students from 7 universities staged protests Thursday in rejection of what they describe as arbitrary measures implemented by the Trump administration. The demonstrators demand respect for the university independence and question the legitimacy of the government's conditioning public funds on ideological and administrative alignment. The students also reject any limits on the number of foreign students, the consideration of race, gender, and other demographic characteristics of students in the admissions process, and the intention of imposing of rules that limit freedom of expression. On Thursday, hundreds of people in the United States took to the streets of San Francisco to protest against immigration raids and the escalation of enforcement of immigration laws. The protesters sang anthems and carried signs with direct messages such as "Protect our neighbors" and "No ICE or troops in the Bay," in reference to Immigration and Customs Enforcement's ICE. The protest stands out in a context of growing tension as Customs and Border Protection agents arrived in the region as part of the intensification of operations and the escalation in the enforcement of immigration laws, coupled with President Donald Trump's threats to send the National Guard to the city under the pretext of controlling crime. We have a second short break coming up. Before, we invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English. There you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverage, and much more. Follow our page and activate the notification button to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final short break coming, but we'll be right back with more from the South. Don't go away. Welcome back. The World Health Organization reported that the death toll in the Gaza Strip has reached 89 since the ceasefire was declared on October 11th. The organization stated that 317 people were injured after the ceasefire was announced, adding that the crisis in the Gaza Strip is far from over, while the needs of the population are enormous. The Director General revealed that the WHO had evacuated 41 critically ill patients and 141 accompanying persons from the enclave for the first time since the ceasefire. Meanwhile, a new group of sick Gazan children were transferred to Jordan for medical treatment since the ceasefire in the Gaza Strip began to be implemented. The group included 12 patients and 38 companions, who will be treated in Jordanian hospitals in coordination with the Ministry of Health and the World Health Organization. Since the initiative began, Jordan has received 799 Gazans, who were transported by land and air in several trips to receive treatment. More than 2 million Palestinians in the Gaza Strip are suffering from an unprecedented humanitarian and health crisis since the outbreak of Israeli genocide in October 2023, leading to the deterioration of basic and health services. In Lebanon, at least 2 people were killed and several were injured after a new series of Israeli bombings against civilian infrastructure in the east of the country, in flagrant violation of the ceasefire agreement with Israel. According to reports from the authorities, the attacks were concentrated in mountainous areas near Shmustar and the other west region of Baalbek. This impact of the explosion affected civilian infrastructure, including schools, where several students were injured by glass shards. Officials condemned the actions and called on the international community to take action to stop the aggression. It is important to note that in recent weeks, Israel has continued to launch offensives on Lebanese territory, arguing that the targets are vehicles or warehouses allegedly used by the Lebanese resistance movement Hezbollah. Russian forces attacked key energy facilities of the Ukrainian military-industrial complex during the last 24 hours. The Defense Department said that the attacks affected temporary deployment points of Kiev troops and foreign mercenaries in at least 152 districts. The targets also included assembly plants, drone storage and launch sites. The Russian Ministry of Defense has reiterated that the attacks against the Ukrainian military-industrial energy complex are being carried out in response to Ukrainian terrorist acts against civilian facilities in Russia. Meanwhile, Russian President Vladimir Putin said Thursday that the country will respond firmly in the event of attacks by the Kiev regime with Western long-range weapons on Russian territory. In response to the Kiev regime's insistence on obtaining U.S. Tomahawk cruise missiles, the Russian leader emphasized that this was an attempt to escalate the armed conflict. The Russian leader pointed out that dialogue is always a better alternative to confrontation, disputes, and especially war. The president also explained that sending Tomahawks would only cause damage. And now we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net and join us on social media. We're on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram and TikTok. For Telesur English, I'm Sophie Fernandez. Thank you for watching.